maybe 10 minutes. Oh. All right, are we recording now? Okay. It is the 19th of August, 2024. It is, I think it's 9:30 a.m. in New York and 1:30 p.m. in London and 6:30 a.m. in California. And this is the Ceph CDS Tentacle documentation meeting. And I will wait for about 30 seconds before beginning this meeting, during which I will share my screen. Oh, Ronan's here. Hi, Ronan. Ronan left. It was brief. All right, it's 1 minute past the half hour. I'm going to go. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Zach. Hey, Laura.
I'm just about to begin. Are you guys ready?
Sure.
All right. Jacques is here.
Yep, go for it.
All right, I'm beginning. Well, I can't allow. Okay, there we go. I can allow Firefox to be shared. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. This is the Ceph developer meeting for Tentacle for documentation. On this first slide, I'm just going to tell you guys who I am. I'm pitching this 5-slide presentation, not so much to people who are here right now, unless they don't know me. I'm pitching this to anybody who might watch this over the course of the next year. So my name is Zach Dover. I'm the head of documentation for the Ceph Foundation. I'm not affiliated with any organization other than the Ceph Foundation. And I'm going to tell you guys what I do. I work mainly in restructured text and a little bit in Markdown. And my day consists of carrying a phone around with me that sends me an alert whenever anybody raises a pull request with the string DOC, capital D or little d. And then usually I immediately go to a computer and see what has changed. My day consists of reading the Ceph documentation and thinking about how to make it better. I know English grammar well enough to confidently make improvements to the documentation when it's necessary. I also know a lot about restructured text and Sphinx, which should save the time of people who are actually developing stuff. And then I do a lot of backporting of commits from the main branch to the feature branches. That's not the main thing that I do, but it's a thing that I do every day. I also keep a handwritten log of all my work. So that's who I am. These links here on the right are respectively the Ceph documentation, the Ceph GitHub, that is the community, the ceph.io/en is the community documentation. And then the final link is Ceph Quarterly, which is a summary of all of the, or most of the commits made in the past 3 months on the Ceph project. So this is the first of 3 slides I have, what we do, what we have done, and what we will do. So I'm going to sort of repeat what I've said, it looks like. I maintain the documentation at docs.ceph.com. Sometimes I generate completely new documentation, like when I can't remember if it was this July or last July, because I've moved house so much, but One of these Julys, I went through and found that the VStart documentation was not great for people who had not ever run VStart before. So I had to generate that. And mostly, though, I work with members of the community to improve the documentation when they have complaints or requests. And there are a few people who I won't name here because I haven't asked them ahead of time if I could name them, but we have several really excellent collaborators who have expert level in the field knowledge of Ceph and will send me messages directly, and we'll get right on that. I also compile and publish Ceph Quarterly, which is, as I said, a quarterly review of Ceph development. It is a link to most of the commits that have been made, most of the pull requests, I should say, that have been made over the past 3 months. Compiling Ceph Quarterly is my least favorite of my Ceph-related tasks because it requires the most deep reading and it is the most tedious. But it's very handy to see at a glance what's happened over the past 3 months. The next one will be coming out in October, where it'll be issue 6. And if this is your first time hearing about it, have a look at it. Send me your ideas about it. I am always willing to hear community feedback. And as I said, I know finicky things about restructured text so that other people don't have to waste their time with it. I have mentioned Eugen, who wouldn't mind. His name is in the docs. So I have 2 specific examples and 2 general examples of the kind of stuff that we do in documentation. We work with the community to improve documentation, as I said. For example, Eugen, who is just a wonderful community contributor, absolutely a model of the kind of open source contribution that you'd hope for. Eugen had developed this procedure on the mailing list for using Ceph-ADM to change a public network. And it was a fairly complicated procedure. And I managed to get it in the documentation less than a day after he brought it to my attention. I was very pleased with that collaboration. The next bullet point is that I've expanded and improved the Ceph glossary and continue to do so. The very next entry that I intend to add is an entry for object, as in the stored object storage object, which is, I don't know when I'll get to that, sometime in the next 2 weeks probably. But the reason I put this on here is because Laura, who is in the meeting and who started the recording for me, I had mentioned the Ceph glossary, and Laura said, "Oh, we have a glossary," and she seemed pleased by the glossary, and so I thought, oh, maybe people don't know about the glossary. Well, there it is. The next thing is a general thing, which is that Ceph Quarterly. It's this ongoing digest of what's happened the previous 3 months of Ceph documentation. It's an idea that Josh and I had when we were in I think we were in the Munich train station after Cephalicon last year, in a Starbucks waiting on a train. And I don't know, a medium fun thing about Ceph Quarterly is that the Morse code for CQ, which are the initials of Ceph Quarterly, are immediately below the title. And CQ is the old Morse code for I am looking to talk to someone. I am attempting to talk to someone. I seek you. And then the final thing is just if you want to see what we've done in Toto, you can look at my GitHub. I think except for maybe like 3 commits to my personal documentation that I keep, all of these are Ceph commits. I think it was around 2047. But maybe 2/3 of those are backports, but it's a lot. I don't have time to summarize it now. So this is what I plan for us to do in 24 and 25. This is a slide in conversation with a slide that I gave in a talk on Amsterdam during the keynote. We want a beginner's guide for people who have no idea about Ceph and want to get their footing in it. Unfortunately, as everyone probably here knows, learning about Ceph is like learning about Watergate or building a pipe organ. It's tremendously complex, and it's hard to know where to begin. So I have the beginner's guide is a sort of conceptual overview of the major parts, kind of like a simplified architecture guide, which we have, which is quite good, but pretty abstract if you don't have a footing in it already, if you don't have a firm sense of the fundamentals. And then I wanted to have a test drive guide that would step people who were new to Ceph through maybe about a dozen essential commands just to get a sense of how Ceph works. And something actually that Laura said to me in Amsterdam finally managed to make its way into my brain. She said, why not just use the VStart guide, or why not just use VStart for this? And I thought, oh, but everyone's so concerned about hardware. I don't think VStart is a good idea. And then after it sat in my head for about a year, I thought, you know what, Laura's right. VStart is probably the best way for people to learn about Ceph. If you don't know what VStart is a virtual Ceph environment that we already have a procedure for. And there are 4 major locations in the documentation where VStart is mentioned in different contexts. And the project that I'm undertaking right now that I hope to have finished by mid-September is consolidating all the various commands from those guides. I have a spreadsheet where I will collate these so that they can be easily discovered. So you'll know how to start and stop and then create different assets inside the Ceph cluster, the virtual cluster. So that's an initiative that I will have complete by December. We will have a beginner's guide and a test drive guide by Cephalicon of this year in Switzerland. The next thing is the Ice Pick initiative, which is something that Jana, whose IRC handle was Ice Pick, and I guess probably still is Ice Pick, but we don't use IRC so much anymore. Jana had asked for the online help to be improved. And the way that he wanted it improved, he's absolutely right. When you ask online help minus help, it spits out a tremendous amount of information that is general about the usage of just the Ceph command. And it does not, it's irrelevant to the specific context. So I'll be working with Ernesto on cutting out the irrelevant parts of the online help and coming up with specific examples, usage examples. And my plan here is to use the find man page as a sort of template for it. The find man page, I think, is a particularly good man page. It's not too much like reference. It's a bit more like tutorial. It's more helpful in the field. And then the next item is that for a long time, we've wanted to have a list of recommended hardware, but it's very difficult to come up with a list of recommended hardware for political reasons, I guess. But I'd like to talk with people in the upstream more about getting a list together and maintaining it somewhere, even if it's not on the official Ceph site, just so that it's not scattered across the internet in various places, or like in the Ceph subreddit or something. I'd like for there to be a place where people can at least see the kind of hardware that they're expected to use, and at a minimum to explain the difference between commodity hardware and consumer grade hardware, which is something that people sometimes don't know and get very disappointed when they learn that distinction. And then the last thing is that there was this whole Python mess recently where we weren't getting backports. And so over the course of the next year, I plan to do more get more control of the documentation infrastructure and do more admin, so that like, since we lost David Galloway a few years ago, we don't have an admin guy. And so I'll do my best to step up and do that. Last slide. Here we go. Here's how you can help if you're interested in helping. If you're not an expert in Ceph, then you can just report typos to me. If you don't know how to make a pull request, you can just go there. And that's probably the fastest way to get a typo or get a small thing changed if you're not familiar with the process of making a documentation pull request. There are guides in the Ceph documentation for setting up your environment to do so. But if you just see something and you just want it fixed, I can fix, like, from the moment that you send me a message. If I'm sitting in a building with a computer in it, then I can get it. I can turn it around in about 15 minutes. That's the fastest way. And I will credit you. I have no vanity about this. The next thing is what I just mentioned, hardware recommendations. If you have hardware that you use in the field, then let me know what it is, and I will add it to a prospective, like not yet extant hardware page. I mean, we do have a hardware recommendations page, but it's pretty vague, and the technological sands have shifted so much that it's probably it refers to maybe even pre-pandemic hardware. And the last thing is the value of articulate ignorance. If you don't know anything about Ceph and you're just trying to learn about it, read the documentation and send me your complaints. They'd be very useful to me. There are a couple of people who complain on the Ceph subreddit that I've spoken with, and their expectations have been very useful to me in redirecting the documentation to meet them where they need to get information, rather than where we as the developers think that we should explain things. All right, stop presenting. There we go. So that is my presentation. I went 2 minutes over. Ronan thinks that 4 people were enough to replace David Galloway. Now it's 5. I don't know. I don't know that David Galloway could ever be replaced. So my plan had been to do half of this 30-minute session going over this presentation, and then have the other half for comments from the community. So if you guys have anything that you would like to ask for in 24-25, this is the time. Also, the time is any time from now until whenever I'm not working on stuff anymore, or I die, because I'm always willing to listen to requests or suggestions. So do you guys have anything that you'd like to ask for or discuss?
Hi, I have a question.
Okay, go.
Sort of following on from your icepick initiative thing that you mentioned, I work at Bloomberg, and I sort of independently of the other people on my team that do this, had concluded that it would be neat if the docs for the admin commands were in some way kept up to date, somewhat better than they have been so far. And in particular, the docs for the commands that are available via the CLI tools don't always currently line up with the docs available in the online help.
That's right.
Are there that seems like a thing that I mean, I'd have to see how priorities go, but personally, that seems to me I think would be valuable to add. Are there any existing plans or things that people are working on that you're aware of, or that you would like to work on, that I might want to pay attention to, in terms of tying those two together a little bit more, or making sure that they drift a bit less, or providing a bit more structured data in the help for the arguments, because there are also similar things that happen with Rados GW admin, for example. There are a lot of commands that take a bucket, but there is no specification anywhere of which commands respect minus bucket and which do not. I'm just wondering if there's any existing initiatives around that I should pay attention to, or whatever, so that if I get to a point where, hey, this is a thing we're going to work on, who should check.
Well, I think that this is exactly part of the icepick initiative. I mean, I have a list of a dozen commands that I intend to improve as the first batch. But if you have these Rados GW commands and you know that they do not match up with the way that these commands that take bucket, for example. If you know that the documentation is wrong, please send me a list, and I will add it to my list of things to do, and I will get it fixed. The only thing holding us back here is that I don't know how to use argparse, which I spoke to Ernesto, who's been on leave for a while. Otherwise, I would have more to tell you about this. Argparse is what generates the or what is involved in the creation of the online help, and I want to make sure that I don't step on the toes of the developers when I getting the online help improved represents an expansion of what I have done in the past, and I want to make sure that I do it so that I don't make anybody angry. But if you have this list of commands that need to be improved, Jacques, send them to me, please, and I will incorporate them into the Ice Pick initiative. Does that answer your, like, have I understood your question, and did I answer you, or am I off?
Part of it, yes. I think maybe I should have been more specific. Maybe my actual question is more. Maybe this is more of a question of collaboration between you and the various like component teams or leads. But like from your perspective, would the documentation provided on the web for the CLI commands be expected to always match the documentation provided by the CLI commands themselves? And would, from your side at least, would you welcome efforts to like structurally tie those two together?
As far as I know, I would. I have access to the leads. In fact, we have a leadership team meeting in 38 minutes. Or no, sorry, not 38 minutes, 98 minutes. I would be willing to use like my position as head of documentation to speak to these leads in order to tie these things together. I think that they should be tied together. I think that they are, I don't know if tied together is the right word. They should, whatever's on docs.ceph.com should be the same thing that you get for the version that you're using when you use online help. Is that, like, do I have that right?
Yes.
Yes. That seems sensible to me. I don't know what the technical obstacles to making certain that those two forms of those two avenues of information are in lockstep, but I will find out. And it's a thing to add to the Ice Pick initiative to make sure that the online help is you're getting the same information from the online help as you would from docs.ceph.com.
Sure. Okay. No, that's great. I'm just asking mostly because if I want to try and go convince, you know, the people in charge of me that this is a thing that I should work on contributing from a code standpoint to one or more of the components of Ceph, then I just want like, this is at least in theory a thing that is useful to do and people would like, you know, sort of before I go try and make that argument. So that sounds good.
I will take this to the leadership team in 96 minutes. Josh is on the leadership team, so he's hearing this, and I will ask them. And if you stay in touch with me, write to me. Oh, Ronan would like to speak. Go ahead, Ronan.
No, I didn't want to interrupt your main sentence.
Oh, it's cool. We've only got 5 more minutes, so go.
Okay, my question is regarding the first, thank you for the work you're doing. It's good to have someone to consult with on text.
I'm very happy to be able to help out. Thank you. And
what I want to raise is the issue of the internals documentation pages in Ceph, in docs.ceph.com. They're, at least the part I know something about, they're pretty bad. I know that, I guess that you are not the one to create updated versions of those documents. You need to have
Can you give me an example?
Okay, I can give you an example of something that I probably should be updating at one point. 1 second. Here it is.
Aha, OSD internal scrub.
Well, but first, before the specifics of this page, or as an example, first we have a problem with the way the docs are organized for a developer. Using it's by alphabetical order, and it's not exactly making, it doesn't make sense as a guide to a developer who is looking for services, etc., for developing or improving his development skills in Ceph. You don't need a RM, you need a guide.
Yeah, it needs to be, the information needs to be more discoverable than it is. Everything in that dev directory has always seemed to me to be sort of a grab bag. And it is my candid opinion that that is the least polished of the documentation. But if you would like to work on organizing that better, I will throw, I don't know, 5 to 10 hours a week toward doing that.
I don't think I can feed you in so much work, but
No, you just have to complain to me, and then I would do the work. But please go on.
Well, first, the example I gave you, the page contains outdated information, which I probably should update at one point. I'll do it for T for the next version, because there will be major changes again there. So I'll rewrite this page for T, but that's just one example where I know what should be written. Is there a way to organize the menu system here in the
yes. Yes, there is. You can use the TOC in restructured text. So if you know how the menu system, like how it could be improved, all you have to do is just send me a text file, send me an Etherpad with what you want the menu system to look like, and I'll make sure that I'm not stepping on any toes, and then I'll make it look like that.
Okay, good.
Is that helpful? Like,
yes.
I don't want to be, I don't want to perform motion with no action. I want to make sure that what I'm suggesting is actually helpful. But yes, I can reorganize those. The left pane can be reorganized.
Okay, so when I do the changes I plan, I'll do it with that as part of the changes. Good.
Okay. And then keeping the content in dev updated. It's a longer term project for me. Like I'm better known now in the Ceph project than I was. People send me a lot more requests than they did. And so as I am better and better known, it will be easier to get people to update these things in dev, I think. So it's like by 26, I hope to have this stuff better updated.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. We have 1 more minute, so I'm going to call it. I'm going to end this meeting. Laura left, so I hope that we're still recording. So thank you, everyone who has attended the 2024 Tentacle Documentation Developer Summit. Write to me anytime with any documentation requests. So meeting adjourned.
I have a question. What would the best email address be to